Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for making the effort. And so we're live on Zoom and we're live on YouTube as well. So I'm just going to adjust the YouTube picture because it's not very nice. Okay, so let's start with a 3-step breathing space and just get ourselves grounded and settled. So everybody who is able to, please put yourself on mute. Great. And just sit with your feet on the ground, your bum on the seat, your spine upright, your shoulders away from your ears. Allow your hands to rest in your lap or on the table. And come into presence. All that's required of you at this point is to show up. You don't need to have any fancy technique. You don't have to have any deep, abiding beliefs. You don't have to have any great, vast experience. All that's required at this point is that you show up. As you sit here and get yourself settled, notice, for example, how particularly at the end of the day, you might feel a bit sleepy. And so the invitation is just to turn up the volume slightly on energy. That doesn't mean that you need to squeeze tight or get contracted. Just making sure that you continue that presence, that sense of showing up, that sense of being really here, not off in la la land. Okay, and when you're ready, just come back to eyes open, and you can transition by rolling your shoulders, rubbing your hands together and getting some warmth. You can stretch, yawn, squeeze, jiggle, whatever makes sense to you to transition from eyes closed to eyes open. Yeah, I can see people doing this. That's a good one as well. Just giving yourself a little head rub. So thank you everyone for being with me tonight, and I really appreciate your attendance and presence. I'm being told that my sound is coming and going, and I am therefore equipped this week. You told me last week, so I have come equipped. I'm just going to plug in and see if this remedies the situation. Okay, now I look like a Dalek. Can you hear me? Is that better? Can you hear me at all? Yep, great. Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do a little reflection and just think about some of the following. I want you to think about all the weird coincidences that you've had over your lifetime. So some people often there's occurrences such as you just think spontaneously about somebody, and next thing they phone you, or someone you haven't seen or heard of for years comes to your mind and you bump into them on the street. Or one friend talks to you about a subject that you've had no interest in the past, or you've never really thought about it much, and then the next week another friend talks about the same subject and you can't believe it. It's such a weird coincidence. Or perhaps you've had some sort of upset or disaster, and it's very disturbing. It's radically altered your life. And as a result of it, you've either met someone, or you've learnt something, or it's put you on a completely different path unexpectedly. So these sort of absurd coincidences are erratic, unusual. They're sometimes pleasurable, sometimes unpleasurable. And most of the time, we just kind of brush them aside and we think it's coincidence. It's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm not going to suggest that we become fatalists. I'm not going to suggest that we become or we disempower ourselves from being agentic in our lives. But I want us to consider for a moment that those absurdities, those unusual occurrences, have more meaning than we give them credit for. And I don't, again, want to suggest that there's a hand of God, or there's some immortal super being puppeteering us, manipulating us. I don't want to suggest that either. But what I do want to suggest is that they give us a glimpse of life living through us. That there's this power, there's this energy, there's this life force that is moving through us, that we kind of are unaware of until we begin to start paying attention, being very present, taking notice of it. In other words, I want to suggest that it's not us doing life, it is life doing us. So I want us to just flip, as a mind experiment, flip it around and think about life is living through us. Life is directing us. Life is moving us. And then if you read some literature from anthropology, you will learn that other tribes, other people from parts of the world view time in a way that is entirely different to the way that we view time. So most of us in Western civilization see ourselves walking into the future. We see time as the past is behind us, the present is here, and the future is in front of us. Whereas other cultures, other people, actually turn it around. So some cultures see that we are walking backwards into the future. So their focus is looking at the past, and all the future is behind us because we're walking backwards, blind to what lies in the future. And the cultures, of course, see time as much. In our Western mind, are here, standing still, and everything is coming towards us. So rather than us going towards the future, imagine things coming towards. Because often we think about things coming at us in a violent and disruptive way. And so again, just to think out all that come towards us. So love, where I'm trying to lead us in this is this idea that really is out of this of surrender, rather than us striving into the future, rather than us thinking that we're in control of everything in our lives, thinking much more about the absurdity of those commitments is to allow things to go through us, allow life to be lived through us. And I was thinking about why surrender is be in control here. So I was thinking about what image comes up for me when I think about surrender. And I was thinking about, I tend to think of driving a car, and surrender is the action of letting go of the steering wheel. And that feels highly hazardous. And it feels like as soon as I let go, as soon as I stop controlling or driving or steering, the car is going to go off the path, and the car is not going to be where it's supposed to be. But surrender can be reconceived as all directions. So as we take the hands off the steering wheel, as we let go, as we really allow the car to go where it needs to go, where it wants, it can actually go. So as we move now into a meditation, I want to bring this alive by thinking about we are not doing meditation. Meditation is doing us. So all we're required to do is to show up. All we're required to do is to soak in whatever meditation brings to us. And that idea of surrender and the car being able to go wherever it needs to go or wherever it takes us means that everything that occurs while we're in practice, everything that occurs in our life can be included in our mindfulness. Nothing in our mindfulness is left out. There's nothing wrong. There's no bits that shouldn't be here. There are no bits that are not part of our practice. And yet, you can notice, for example, as you practice, how you might have some judgment about, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that, which is another way of seizing and controlling and contracting. So I hope these ideas are sort of cogent and begin to help you to reconceive that surrender is actually potentially really powerful. It has a sense of freedom and the strength to kind of whatever arises. And of course, anybody who's read the Rumi poem, read Rumi, I read a poem, our pursuit of, and our pursuit of a goal and our pursuit of the future to sort of liberate ourselves, widen our appreciation, and to be much more inclusive of all sorts of things. Because this is the loveliness is everywhere. So the loveliness is everywhere, even in the ugliest and most hostile environment. The loveliness is everywhere at the turning of a corner, in the eyes and on the lips of a stranger, in the emptiest areas, with no place for hope and only death to invite the heart. The loveliness is everywhere. It emerges, incomprehensible, inexplicable. It arises in its own reality. And what we must learn is how to receive it into ours. That's a lovely poem by Kenneth Bont. So let's do a sitting practice for about 20 minutes. Get yourself super comfortable. Turn off your video if you'd like to. Lie down if you'd like to. And as I've been suggesting throughout, the purpose of this meditation is really to be present, to show up for it. When I was doing my research, one of the things people talked about when they talked about being mindful, they said they were all in, all in, all in. And we can do that moment by moment by moment. We can just show up and be all in. And that's really all we're doing. Okay, so sit in a way that's comfortable for you, or lie in a way that's comfortable for you. And whatever way you personally find to come to presence, so to come to awareness, to be alert without being striving, to be relaxed without being sleepy. And maybe you have standard practice. Maybe you have a way that you regularly sit in mindfulness or lie, practice in whatever way, standing, seated, walking. And tonight the invitation is really to relax your practice. So let go of doing anything, let go of technique, and instead really think about or experiment with this idea of being wide open and free, welcoming everything, loosening your grip on the steering wheel, and allowing meditation to do you rather than you do meditation. Everything is included. Remember those absurd incidents I referred to at the beginning. Every object that arises in meditation has the potential to be one of those absurd coincidences. But you don't know it. They just arrive and then they disappear. All you have to do is be present. Remember that your stance in this meditation is wide open and free. Nothing left out, nothing excluded, and nothing wrong. If you notice any fearfulness arising from being this open, or any reactivity or any judging, just notice that this is part of the process. This is part of the letting go and surrendering to the practice. Of course, if you get really overwhelmed with fearfulness, then you can always seek refuge in a very simple breath meditation, which keeps you a bit more focused and a bit more anchored. But normal levels of fearfulness can just be investigated and encouraged to come and stay, or encouraged to go. It's no need to get into reaction. This is not how it